Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are finally reunited with Alice, and it looks like the future of Sword Art Online is going to involve highly advanced AI killer robots straight out of Skynet and Terminator 2. Going into this episode of Sword Art Online Alicization was kind of a strange thing, if only for the fact that the last episode of the series was probably the most intense episode of the entire franchise. It was also an episode which garnered a lot of controversy. A lot of people had some problems with the episode, with how it decided to depict its sexual assault and extreme violence, and it just came together into a margarita mix of absolute gore and ridiculousness. It's an episode that I'm never going to forget, and I imagine it's going to scar a lot of people. However, we immediately get away from that in this episode as we get to see Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Immediately being reunited with Alice, and for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not quite the reunion that he was hoping for, as it's not long before he's bitch-slapped by a giant golden sword. It's in this moment that they realize that somehow Alice's memories are gone and they're gonna have to try and get them back. But for the meantime, they're going to have to be her bitch. On the upside, I guess it is cool that they get to ride on a dragon, although I guess it also does suck that they're actually chained to the damn thing. We do get a little bit of resolution from the last episode with Ronnie and Tease actually returning, with Ronnie giving Kirito a lunch while crying like the cute little anime girl that she is. And of course we have Tease, who is pretty much convinced that she's the girlfriend of Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point. Oh, she's going to be sorely disappointed when she meets Alice. The scene of watching Tease and Ronnie watch Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Fly away on that dragon is honestly kind of heartbreaking, as you know that these girls have been completely broken at this moment, and the only two people who have ever always protected them are now gone. And watching them just collapse right there is honestly a very sad moment, if a bit over the top. The rest of the episode follows Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! As they hang out in jail waiting for their execution. Yeah, Alice is going to try and decapitate both of them. Don't think this is actually going to come to fruition at all, but still, it's a pretty grim realization for these two characters. That's when they decide that they realize, even though they're breaking the law, it's the right thing to save Alice. So they actually use their heads, they combine their chains together, and the combined power allows them to break free from their cells and escape from a very inept and sleepy guard. As they're escaping through the Rose Garden, they're confronted by an Integrity Knight, who is just such a douchey-looking character, if only for the fact that he has to do the whole hair flip thing. All I know is this guy looks like he's going to be the first major obstacle for Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! And even though he is a novice Integrity Knight, I have a feeling they're really going to show off why these guys are so powerful in the first place. But that's actually not the entire episode. We do have a scene that actually goes back to the real world, which is honestly, I think, more intriguing than anything that was actually going on here, if only for the fact that we now know that this organization which has created these artificial floodlights and they're trying to create an AI can kill someone, they're also creating these super-powered robots, which they're actually going to insert these AIs in. It happens when Asuna is just sort of casually walking through the facility and she walks past a robot and she does a double take like, yep, that's a fucking robot. We get to learn that this thing is actually not what they're going to try and put the AI in, as it's way too archaic. It appears that they're actually trying to create something a little more advanced, something that I'm sure eventually we're going to see in the series. There's also a really great ominous moment where Asuna is walking down a hallway and she runs into these two scientists whose faces are completely obscured, but she notices that there's something really strange about these guys. I don't know really what's going on here, but now that I know that there's actual robots in this world which can be inhabited by AIs, I'm a little paranoid. These guys might actually be robots. There's even like a clanking sound when this guy is actually walking on his last footstep. So what's the rundown on this episode of Sword Art Online Alicization? This was the type of episode, honestly, that we needed after the last one. It was just such a different type of episode, and this one felt a little more traditional in many senses. Visually speaking, this episode was also just gorgeous in every single way. I love the extreme contrast of both the real world and the underworld, where when they're actually at this grand ivory tower, everything's beautiful, there's rose bushes everywhere. Then after that, we immediately cut to the real world, which is cold, dark, and sterile. It's a nice juxtaposition, and I really did appreciate that, as it really is a stark reminder of this is what the real world is, and this is the crazy fantasy world with golden armor, giant dragons, and ridiculous over-the-top sex sexual assault and spraying Evil Dead blood. You also get the sense in this episode that Kirito is definitely sort of just going with the flow with things. Like, he's been through this so many times before that he's not even really surprised by anything that's truly happening. And even when they're in a dire situation like being in jail, he's just casually like, well, dude, let's just break out, no problem. Kirito knows he's in a video game, and he's taking advantage of that in every single point, and that makes him seem a little overly confident, but I'm really glad that this confidence is actually being instilled in Yujiro, a character who continues to grow on me with every single episode that he's in. His reunion with Alice is bittersweet to say the least, as she pretty much doesn't recognize them, and she's basically a cold-hearted bitch now. But still, I can't wait to see her return to her eventual personality, but I can't wait to see how actually that goes down, how they're going to return the memories, and all of the different enemies they're going to have to run into in the future. This was another fantastic episode of Sword Art Online, which is why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Even though the last episode was very controversial and a lot of people were probably turned off by it, I still think that this is one of the strongest seasons that I've actually seen from the franchise, and I think it's about on par with the first season thus far, and might even surpass it at some points. So let's wrap this up. You got my thoughts on this episode. I want to get yours. If any of you guys did watch the episode, tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of Sword Art Online Alicization. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down, baby.